Good evening, Des Moines. This is Lefty with Doc and Lefty sitting in the captain's chair. I got to tell you, I think I like the other seat a little bit better because I look pretty fat in this picture. You
look fat in the other seat too.
Do I? Is that what it is? We got Doc here. You know, he said, and aside, your microphone terrible. Your microphone is. I'm looking down like this. I'm looking kind of over my glasses and through my eyebrows. But anyway, we've got a great show. We got a lot to talk about. I get to run the show today because I get a text message from my illustrious, glorious leader, partner, and friend, the eminent Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, D.O.
Basically saying, I don't have anything to say except I'm going to bash on more Republicans.
Yeah, right.
So I said, do you have anything?
And I said, well, no, but we can bash on more Republicans. So here's the issue today. There's a lot that's going on nationally. There's some things going on locally that we're going to get to. But really, the last few weeks that I've noticed this, Doc, is that we've been really kind of talking a lot about the Republican Party, ways to bring them back from the wilderness, ways to sort of fix the brand.
Unite them.
Unite them, exactly. Now, I would just as soon see them stay in the wilderness, but I also understand that for a healthy democracy, there needs to be at least two parties. We both agree that more
functional
would be better.
Parties.
Yeah, functional. You're right.
And you and I do agree there needs to be more.
There should be more parties. A healthy democracy has room for all kinds of different points of view, and it would really take care of a lot of the natural divisions that occur. I mean, there's no reason why environmentalists and union leaders should be in the Democratic Party together by themselves, because sometimes they have divergent interests. And so you see a lot of pandering from the Democratic Party between environmentalists and union leaders, between, like the gays, if you can really call them a political action group in and of themselves, and African Americans. Sometimes they have kind of at loggerheads there. And you see that in the Republican Party, too, between the Christian conservatives and the fiscal conservatives. Although at the Celebrate Life event, they said that wasn't really a distinction and would slap me on the wrist for making it. But I think that you probably agree with me.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So,
and it kills me to say that.
We would like, and that James Madison talked a lot about the individual groups, like that a republic, a democracy wasn't made up of just, monoglot, single issue demographics, that you had to build coalitions, and that there are a lot of different interests, that there are a lot of different things that go on, and you have to build up those bases, and that would, a lot of different parties that were more organized working together would maybe make for better democracy. We seem to think so. Maybe if you wanted to call in and let us know how wrong we are, that would be great. I'm going to flash the number here in a second. But anyway, so there are 855-244-0077 if you want to give me what for on that little introduction. But there's a lot of things going around the state. A lot of things going around the nation. Sequester has happened.
And it's not the disaster that they made it out to be.
Not yet.
Well, now I'm going to tell you, I saw a memo, and for the life of me, I think it was Washington Post, but now I can't remember where I read it, that basically from the White House, not from Obama, but from the White House, that said, listen, now that you're under sequester, try to make everything as painful and as problematic as possible. That was the gist of it. They said it, of course, in diplomacy speak, but
right.
That's what they said.
Well, you heard what's his face, the guy that got Bob Woodward all riled up, say something along those lines about making it painful in the districts on Meet the Press on Sunday.
Yes,
but that was always the intention. I don't think that anybody is under the impression that the cuts weren't designed to hurt. That was the whole idea back 18 months ago.
Well, but several things. Trimming $85 million from the budget does three different things. One, doesn't help the deficit at all. Two, it makes you choose between your high dollar items like maybe an F-16, or in the case of Department of Human Services, 2,700 tanks, and employing people to carry out their mission. I don't think the sequester is going to be nearly as bad as what everybody thinks, mainly because John Kerry this morning just gave $250 million to the Egyptians. So if we can come up with $250 million for the Egyptians, what's the big deal about either coming up with $85 million or cutting $85 million from the budget? It's not going to really affect anything one way or another. I do believe that the sequester, I don't know if it's sequester or sequester, but either way, I don't think it's going to have as big of impact. I think Obama, again, made a crisis out of nothing in order to be able to garner votes. It seems to be a pattern of behavior, not just with Obama, but people from Chicago. Now, locally, a couple of things that have happened that continue to schism the party. Is that even a phrase? I think you could say it, schism.
Is schism a noun or a verb?
Both. We'll do it that way.
Okay.
The schism in the Republican Party deepened this morning by a very public attack on Craig Robinson, who is a longtime Terry Branstad supporter, a longtime money maker, fundraiser for the Republicans. He has a group, he has a website, really a blog site called the Iowa Republican. And he took a broadside today with a libertarian supporter of apparently A.J. Spiker, although I can't bring A.J. into this conflict, but this is who this person supports. And that is apparently Craig Robinson has, according to this fellow, done some dirty, underhanded dealing in the fact that he had the GOP lounge, and then he kind of turned it into the Iowa Republican. Craig likes to fancy himself a journalist, I believe. However, I have talked with him on several occasions, and he does indicate that he's a blogger and not necessarily a journalist. And apparently there is some differentiation there. He gets a press pass just like we do, Blake, to big things. Mm-hmm. Anyway, apparently there is some financial hanky-panky going on, and he sold some of the rights to the Iowa Republican as far as his advertising goes, and in order to allow these people that advertised with him to collect information on people that visited his site. When I asked, and this of course is on Facebook, you can, the conversation is there. When I asked, well, what kind of information was taken, it was the basic stuff, who you're going to vote for, what articles you look at, that kind of stuff. And but he said it was more like collecting instead of taking. And my point back to him, which was the last part that I said, is, there's not a lot of difference between collecting and taking. Especially, my dad used to be a collection attorney. He actually didn't do a lot of collecting. He did a lot of taking money that was owed.
It's true.
And so for me, I'm looking at this going, this is just another example about if some leaders don't step forward and start putting some water on the fires of the Republican Party, this is what's going to continue. A.J. Spiker and Terry Branstad are going at it tooth and nail. First it was the straw poll, and now it's gas tax. Now, on the first course, I was with Terry Branstad. I think we ought to keep the straw poll. And on the second one, I'm with A.J. Spiker. I don't think we ought to be increasing gas tax. One of the interesting statistics that we had, or that I've found out, is with the gas tax, we collect it here in Iowa. We send it to Washington. Washington turns around and sends us back a portion of our gas tax. So if we increase it, it's just going to be more tax money going out to Washington. Now, I'm not for taxes. I understand that we have to have an infrastructure and the rest of it. But until we get spending under control in Washington with true accountability and transparency, I'm not willing to send those guys to Washington any more money. It's tough enough to go talk to, your local representative about taxes and property taxes. So I don't know how much time we have left.
Well, we got a couple of minutes, and I wanted to kick this to you because I think it dovetails especially well with what we're talking about, spending and really what's happening here. And what you're seeing is that the government has once again, the president and the Congress have once again created this monstrosity crisis, this huge spending, tax revenue blob of nothing called the sequester fight, the debt ceiling, all those different manufactured crises, basically to distract us from what's going on. And I'm going to, when we get on the other side of this break, after a couple words from our sponsors, we're going to get back. We're going to talk about something that I saw on Facebook that's actually the rehash of an old column from a columnist in Florida named Charlie Reese. You probably saw this too, about the 545 people responsible. He wrote part of the column in 1985, and it is as true today as it was back then. So thank you very much for listening. This is Doc and Lefty in Webcast One Live Studio. We'll check you out after this word from our sponsors.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Drink, dance, party. Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittiesusa.com. Kitty's, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back. This is Lefty, the Doc and Lefty. Thanks to Webcast One Live, and thanks to our sponsor, Miss Kitty. She's a sponsor of the studio, and I've been to that establishment, and it's a lot of fun. I don't know if the good doctor has probably been there in a long time. But
I had a stool that was engraved with my name on it at one point way back when.
At one point, we are patrons of the fine arts, and there's no finer art than some of the folks that walk through Miss Kitty's. I will tell you
especially
that.
on Friday nights when the girls are on the bar.
That's right. So let me tell you, we're talking about the spending crises. We're talking about the tax hikes, the different things. Charlie Reese wrote an article that's getting some more play, and people have been passing it off like it's recent. It's not. There were a couple iterations of this thing, one in 85 and one again when he retired, I think back in 01. You have to check me on that. But anyway, he talks about the 545 people that are responsible for all the problems in this country, and he's talking about the 435 members of Congress, or members of the House of Representatives, the 100 members of the Senate, the President, and the 9 members of the Supreme Court. He excludes the Vice President because, let's face it, the Vice President doesn't do jack squat. Anyway, one of the things that caught my eye when I was reading this was he's talking about he's talking about how spending and how deficits are created, and he's talking about how politicians with a lot of gall. And this is what he said from the 1985 column. He says, "What separates a politician from a normal human being is an excessive amount of gall. No normal human being would have the gall of Tip O'Neill, who stood up and criticized Ronald Reagan for creating deficits." You were there. You remember that happening.
Oh, absolutely.
But he goes on to say, "The president can only propose a budget. He cannot force the Congress to accept it. The Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, gives sole responsibility to the House of Representatives for originating appropriations and taxes. O'Neill is the Speaker of the House. He is the leader of the majority party. He and his fellow Democrats, not the president, can approve any budget they want. If the president vetoes it, then they can pass it over his veto." Now, here's what's interesting, and this is why I kind of hate the internet sometimes. That article when I read it, all that was replaced with Boehner. Now, maybe the person did that on purpose, trying to make a point, but it's apropos to the current situation. We have Democratic Congresses, we have Democratic presidents, we have Republican the same, going back and forth about who's against deficits. Well, everybody's against deficits. Well, then why the heck haven't they done anything about it? What do you think about that, Doug?
Well, first of all, they haven't passed a budget in 5 years now? This will be the 5th year.
The Senate hasn't passed one out. The Senate hasn't. No.
The problem is I think the House has tried to pass a budget, has actually succeeded, but the problem is you have to ratify it, right? It has to go to the president. It has to go to the Senate, and a lot of times the Senate will bog things down. Senator Grassley, who is an excellent statesman, has stated that this is basically due to the way that constitutionally they're set up. The Congress is, much more reactive to their people, their constituents, because they're reelected every 2 years. So they're like a hot cup of tea. And the Senate is like the saucer you sit it on. It's supposed to be able to cool it off.
That's right.
One of the things that I find, I don't know how to describe this, but galling is a good word since we're using that. The House Republicans have tried 34 times to repeal Obamacare and can't get it done. They have a supermajority, even better than what the Democrats had when they passed it in the House. Mm-hmm. Do you agree? Is my information fairly accurate as far as you know?
Well, you don't need a supermajority in the House.
Yet they've failed every time. So my question is, what Republicans are voting not to defund Obamacare? And that's part of the problem. This goes back to, you have Cantor, who's a big Tea Party favorite. The Tea Party and the Libertarian Party share a lot of the same values. And that is, even though the Libertarian Party is, keep completely out of my life, the Tea Party is no more taxes. And the Libertarian Party, that's one of their major planks. So they're forming a coalition there headed by Eric Cantor. Well, John Boehner has to deal with these people. Boehner can't turn around and wheel and deal because now he has to answer to people that are fiscal conservatives. And I think that's part of the problem is that you have a group of moderates and a group of pragmatists trying to run the country that have to answer to people that don't want taxes.
Well, I guess my take on it is a little similar. I guess, is your opinion that answering to those folks, like they should maybe capitulate, or that the Tea Party libertarian folks, the fiscal folks, are kind of ruining the party for everybody. They're kind of taking a dump in the punch bowl.
No, I don't. I think what they're doing is making the Republicans again. We were supposed to be the party of financial wherewithal. We were supposed to be the party of, watch your P's and Q's, make sure you watch every dime going through. And the truth is, with Bush being in there, there's no way we can make that argument for that.
Well, let's talk about that, because let's talk in sort of in the context of this article. And we've only got a few minutes left to discuss, and I want to move on to some other things. But it's the Congress that proposes. It's the House that proposes these appropriation bills. In fact, all spending has to originate in the House by Article 1 of the Constitution. So back in the 80s, when the Democrats had control of the House of Representatives, and they had control of the House of Representatives for a long, long time, 40 years, they proposed all these appropriations bills that bloated the size of government because the president can't do that. Charlie Reese is right about that. Well, then why did Reagan sign those budgets into law? That's the thing, and that's the point of the article. Why, if the Republicans nowadays are so upset about the spending, then why don't they make deals, pass these appropriations bills, and let the president veto them? That's the issue. They're not doing that.
I agree with that point. I don't know why they're not doing that. I don't know why they're running around trying to appease the media, trying to appease the left. You're not going to do it. You're not, as a Republican, you're not going to make the media happy.
Well, here's the question. Here's another question that I have to you. Do you think that, kind of bringing this back full circle, do you think that the White House overplayed its hand with the sequester stuff?
Absolutely. I think that Boehner and the rest of the crew out there are starting to get smart. The truth is, I think they got spoiled running the show out there. They had a majority under Bush. They had both the House and Senate under Bush, if I recall correctly. And
for a while, yeah.
For a while.
Till 2006. And
then, they've been kind of working this guerrilla warfare. But the bottom line is not a lot of Republicans changed hands. I think what's happening is, and to put it in the words of a very good friend of ours, they have an incumbent protection policy out there. Both parties do.
Yep.
And I think what happened is they get so locked into negotiating for themselves and for securing their office that they don't stop and do the people's work. That's what happens when you're out there too long. I mean, if you look at John Boehner, don't get me wrong, when he first cropped up and says, listen, we're going to fight all the way, I was all for it, right? But you look at a guy, he looks like he's from Hollywood. He doesn't look like he's from his home state.
I mean, but see, it would be fine if John Boehner comes up and says that he's going to fight all the way and make all kinds of problems for the president. That's just sort of what
you're supposed to do. Is the
opposite party speakers of the House are supposed to do. Tip O'Neill did it for Reagan. Newt did it for Clinton. We got Boehner saying that he's going to do it for Obama. Well, for crying out loud, I mean, have you seen a more politically, except for Mitt Romney, have you seen a more politically inept Republican? Everything that comes out of his mouth when he makes statements, has speeches, or takes any kind of press whatsoever, digs him into a deeper hole, not only with his constituents, but with the American people writ large, in my opinion.
Well, the Speaker of the House is like a lot of these positions. It's actually a position where you're locked into certain roles. Doesn't matter what you do or what you believe, there are certain things you have to do.
And I'm interested in digging a little bit more deeper into that, because I think that'll come nicely into the role that AJ Spiker is playing as a foil for Branstad. We're going to get into that right after this break from our sponsors. Thanks for listening.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
This is Lefty with Doc and Lefty. Webcast One Live here in Des Moines every Tuesday night from 6 to 7. Really appreciate all the folks that are out there listening. You know, when we first started the show, I used to make a lot of jokes about how there are probably 6 or 7 of you sitting in your bunkers, maybe drinking your hot cocoa, and just wanted to listen to something to either rile you up or cool you off. And Doc has put paid to that lie, so we really appreciate all the folks out there that tune in every single week to this show. We really do enjoy your support, and hope that you are patronizing the sponsors that make this that make the studio possible, that give us our great producer Ryan, or Frank, as Doc is wont to call him. But getting back to our conversation, Doc, I'm really interested to hear your take on you don't see a party leader go after a governor in his own party as much as you've seen AJ Spiker go after Terry Branstad. I think, first of all, I think it's amazing, and I also think that it's indicative of this larger split that we keep talking about. I mean, honestly, folks, we would stop talking about the problems with the Republican Party and the schism that has developed if it wasn't so deep. And so it's as deep as the Grand Canyon at this point, in my opinion. And we don't talk a lot about the Democrats because right now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, they keep winning elections. So AJ Spiker came out strongly against the gas tax that his governor, the governor in his party, who he supported after he won the nomination, like every good politico does, endorsed it. He's calling it a user fee. He says that we got to increase user fees on the highways because we got to make sure that we have enough money to do the infrastructure projects. He wants to put a 10-cent increase on gas. I mean, gas is what already. It's 40 cents a gallon. 40 cents a gallon on tax, or more than that, maybe.
Well, it's more. Well, it kind of fluctuates. There's some percentage taxes. There are some straightforward taxes. I know that when gas was like at $1.12 or $1.13, something
back when
like
I started driving.
Well, no, I mean just within the last 4 or 5 years, right after the big crisis crunched, and then the gas prices fell.
I don't think they got that far down, but yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, something really low. I know at that point it was 92 cents per gallon, all totaled, all the taxes, not just a gas tax.
Oh, 92 cents was the tax.
Was the tax.
Okay.
Now, so I know that Iowa's tax is 40 cents a gallon currently, 38, 42, 40, somewhere in there. So that's what I know about the gas tax.
So he wants to increase another 10 cents a gallon. And this is bipartisan. The gas tax itself is bipartisan. I mean, there's no argument about that. You got Republicans and Democrats at the state house that are all kind of for this gas tax. It's really only the Tea Party Republicans that are all out against it.
Well,
is that a fair statement?
Well, if you add the Tea Party,
There are some Democrats that are against it too. I should say
and
that.
libertarians, there are a few that are against it, but the ones I've talked to that are Democrats don't think that it goes far enough. That's why they oppose it. They want to actually higher tax. Now I don't know if that's for all of them, but the two I talked to,
the few that I've listened to in interviews they've said that if you're going to do it, then do it so it's effective. They have said that, but they do say they take the Narciss approach. He was always about regressive taxes, John Narciss. They take that approach and they say that it's too regressive. Like this is the tax that hits the pocketbook more than anything else, which is not true. I mean, the sales tax is worse than the gas tax, in my opinion. But it's the one that people really see, and it's the one that you have to deal with if you're going to have a job or take your kids to school.
I agree 100%. I think it's very regressive. I agree with Lefty that a sales tax is much more regressive than a gas tax.
Right.
But it's a 1-2 combination. It isn't a 1 and then maybe the gas tax is number 5 as far as regressive. You're talking
for sure.
Yeah, it's a very regressive tax.
Now the thing that when I come out and think about this kind of stuff, and my position on this, I'm more in favor of a regressive tax in the sense of a VAT. Because I think that really the savings, investment, taxing, spending, consumption problems in this country pale in comparison to what we just consume as a country. I think that more than anything else, we have a consumption problem in this country. When we talk about the consumption economy, that we're not spending enough and we had to boost spending, that's where people get into trouble. If you're going to be buying lots and lots of expensive stuff that you don't really need, and you're going to put some sort of national sales tax on that and eliminate everything else, first of all, it'll balance the books pretty darn quick because of the appetite for consumption in this country. But maybe some of the things that we need less of, like cars on the road, let's face it. You may not agree because you're a anti sort of climate change kind of person, but for environmentalists, that's a big one. They want to see less cars on the road. They want to see less gas, oil consumed. That would do a lot for getting us off the Mideast heat, and would really help out in a lot of it. Saving a lot of money because people would just be not driving as much. Now, don't get me wrong, that would be a gigantic shock to the economy. Absolutely, it would. Fewer people driving shorter distances would be a gigantic shock to the economy, and we'd have to restructure pretty much the entire way that folks work, that what we do. So really, it's a pie in the sky kind of idea. But what's this idea about? What do you think about this idea about a consumption tax?
Well, let's get that after the break. We have to take a break real quick right now. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Well, this is Lefty with Doc and Lefty. We went to the break. If you caught me flat-footed, that's because I was. But we're back up. We're running again, and that's a good deal. And
that's a bonus for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're here to educate,
entertain,
and learninate.
And learninate.
Yep. That's learning, putting some learning on you.
Well, after I got so flustered and out of sorts with all the learninating that we were doing that I kind of forgot exactly what we were talking about right before the break. I think I was making a pretty good point. Do you remember?
Well, we were talking about the gas tax, how regressive it was, and really, I think we were talking about exactly how worthless a gas tax would be, and you were talking about a VAT tax,
right?
How it would be a tremendous shock to the economy, and I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I don't agree with the VAT tax at all, because if you look at that, one of the number one reasons the European economy is continuing to struggle is a VAT tax. When you introduce a VAT tax, it's universal. No matter where you've introduced it, your economy grinds to a halt and has all the time.
Well, that's not true. I mean, Germany has no problem with it. And Germany's had a VAT for a long time.
But
they don't have much of an income tax. That's the whole issue.
Well, but the VAT, I can tell you the VAT for Germany makes it so that the people that aren't at the top of the income ladder cannot purchase the things that they need. When you start talking about the haves and the have-nots, every time you introduce a tax from the government, particularly a VAT tax, that gap between the haves and the have-nots widens. And the other thing you have to keep in mind about Germany is they were able to, because of the structure of the European Union, they were able to ship all of their products to be built with cheap labor from Greece and Italy and Spain, those same countries that are having problems. And then they were able to export it back to the northern countries and charge a premium for it. What you saw is when the indebted southern states of Europe finally could not pay their bills, that's when the crisis hit for the Germans. The Germans know that this is a problem, that they can't continue with the VAT tax, mainly because it's so regressive and it stifles their growth that if they had to actually compete in a different sector, then they're not able to compete. They have a lot of things that they can rest their laurels on, like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, but they don't. But if you look at it, they are not really coming out with any new products. They're just coming out with more refined product.
Everything that you hear is that Germany is the engine of Europe. Everyone's looking to Germany to make these saving. Sorry, I got distracted by my microphone for a second. To save everybody all the time, and so if their economy is so upside down, then why? I mean, it just doesn't track, Doc. It just doesn't track.
Well, the first thing is you have to keep in mind there's old Europe and new Europe. How do we get onto the VAT tax, by the way? Anyway, there's old Europe and new Europe. Old Europe is the former Eastern Bloc states, Moldova, Ukraine, Poland. And then there's old Europe, and that's the ones that we generally think of as Europe. If you look at the economies of Europe, Ukraine was growing at a much faster rate than Germany before the crash. Poland was growing at a much faster rate than Germany before the crash. And in fact, out of all the European nations, there's only one that continued to have positive growth throughout the entirety from 2007 till now, and that's Poland. They dipped down to a positive growth rate of 1.9%, all right, which for them was terrible. There's a couple of things that the Ukrainians, the Poles, and the Moldovans all had in common that allowed their economies to grow, and particularly Poland during the height of the crisis, and that is none of them had a VAT tax. That's pretty straightforward. Part of what's going on is robber barons. Everybody's familiar in America with robber barons. That's essentially what happened in the European Union. The northern states acted as robber barons and collected all the money from everybody else because of their ability to ship their products, to get them made for cheap labor, and then be able to ship them north.
I don't want to jump on you here, but I'm looking at this, and it says that that Poland has a value-added tax at a rate of 23%. So there you go. Anyway, you're right though. We got distracted on something that really has nothing to do with what we were talking about, because really what I want to talk about as far as we're talking about AJ Spiker with the governor and the different reasons why people on both sides of the political spectrum are saying that gas tax is good, gas tax isn't. What I really want to talk about is more of the meta narrative of this role of a political leader just bashing his own governor, the same guy in the same party, and wondering exactly, have we seen that before in Iowa at least? To this level, I don't think we have.
Not to this level. No, there's no way. We had a governor, Bob Ray, and he was in there for more than 20
Number
years.
2 after Branstad. Yes,
and he had been there for years. It stabilized the state. Terry Branstad essentially took over and was as governor for 12 years then, and during that period of time, you had people saying, Branstad did make a deal with teachers union, and people were upset with that. And Branstad, does what is practical to move the state forward. Vilsack didn't have a whole lot of Democratic people coming after him. Culver caught a lot of criticism. Culver caught a lot of criticism from not only from Republicans but from Democrats for basically his laziness in moving forward with, not moving forward in the way he should. And, the Democrats also were very critical of, making exemptions for the, for the smoking, for making an exception for the First Lady to have non-smoking, to allow her to smoke in her car. So, he got a lot of flack for that, but I don't recall anything. I don't recall anything like this.
It really does demonstrate the larger problem, but it also kind of don't you think it's more of a shift in the role of the Republican leader to be doing this sort of something like this? I mean, to take on his own governor, and speaking of roles of leaders in their respective fields. You've read about this Regents issue? Bruce Rastetter coming after that.
Yeah, there's several issues with Bruce. Yeah, that come up.
Well, there are lots of issues that come up with him over the years, but he has now been appointed to be a part of the board that runs the colleges in this state. And is there an issue with academic freedom, with all the different things? Now, this is not a new story, but it's an ongoing story. And we haven't talked about it yet, and I'd really like to hear Doc's take. And so we're going to go. Good. I'm having all kinds of problems here.
You are.
I wish this wasn't live, and I wish this wasn't streaming video to see me drooping my mic all over the studio. But we're going to talk about that after the break. We're going to also talk about even more division with the Republican Party. You have over 100 establishment, regular Joe Republicans who have signed, Republican leaders who have signed an amicus brief to the Supreme Court in support of gay marriage. It's before Prop 8. The appeal Prop 8 is before the United States Supreme Court now. And what does that do to the what you say the base of the Republican Party? So we'll talk about that. A lot of other issues right after the break. Webcast1live.com. Thanks for listening.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Well, this is Lefty with Doc and Lefty, webcast1live.com. We've got the live stream up here if you want to communicate with the show that way. You can call us at our phone number, 855-244-0077. Thanks to all the sponsors, Webcast One. Thanks to our great producer who does the best job he can making me look good. I know Doc doesn't need as much help, but...
I need a lot. Well, because everybody's given up on me. Frank actually made a suggestion before the show, and that is I should just wear a hockey mask, and that way he could just put whatever face he wanted over the top.
It'd have to be a green hockey mask.
Let's see. Well, then I don't know. I kind of think that maybe your political message would be too intimidating.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe that would be
absolutely.
So Bruce Rastetter has gotten himself into a little bit of trouble in the Register, not with the Register, but in the Register, by going after Professor Schnorr, Gerald Schnorr, who's this environmental professor at the University of Iowa. You know, you guys have all heard about this. He used to be in business with Monty Shaw, who runs the Renewable Energy Board. Gerald Schnorr comes out and says things that Monty doesn't like. Monty contacts his buddy Bruce. Bruce doesn't contact the professor, sends a letter straight to his boss, President Sally Mason, saying, hey, big guy, you got your facts wrong. And really the question is less about what he said and more about the reasons why he said it. Do you think that we have an issue in this state with appointed officials being too beholden to some of their old private interests before they got appointed?
Well, yes. To answer the question directly, yes, I think there's a problem. But I also believe it's a problem that's existed. I think it's a problem on the left. I think it's a problem on the right. Honestly, I took a look at the whole thing. I've met Bruce several times. He's a stand-up guy. And this whole thing boils down to a lecture that this Schnorr guy gave. And Professor Schnorr, I should be respectful of his position. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. That said we need to find different ways to make ethanol that doesn't require so much water because our aquifer, called the Jacobson Aquifer, is draining. Now, that's part of the problem with trying to make a stance based upon your politics, because he said two things that are true but that aren't related. Yes, making ethanol requires water. Growing corn requires a great deal of water. But the problem is the Jacobson Aquifer has been draining because everybody in the Midwest taps into it. Omaha taps into it. Minneapolis can tap into it. I think Kansas City taps into it. So you actually have most of the water being drained because of municipal uses. Don't get me wrong, agriculture is a huge use of water. It is. But you also have to keep in mind that if you put in renewable resources, particularly as ethanol, that sliver of the pie that's being used is not nearly as large as, other uses.
It's true. Well, not just that. I mean, the biggest use for water, everybody knows, is residential usage for your lawns, and that's throughout the country. In Iowa's an agricultural state. Used a lot of water for everything from corn to soybeans for whatever. The issue that I took, and I think that I explained this, is it appropriate for someone appointed by the governor who's supposed to be a nonpartisan official, sort of, and this isn't, I'm not trying to bash Republicans or conservatives here, because frankly I don't know Mr. Rastetter's politics. I have no idea if maybe he just thought he was standing up for a buddy. But when you're dealing with an appointed official who's not elected, and you see this and you hear this kind of stuff from judges all the time, the main thing that they want to always avoid is the perception of impropriety, because that is a big knock to their reputation. And once, as an impartial judge, or as anybody who's appointed who's not beholden to an electorate at all, the biggest problem you can have is when your reputation goes. And so, does it sort of cloud the vaunted, or maybe just ostensible, maybe illusory, even-handedness and objectivity that the regents are supposed to have with respect to the kind of research and the sorts of things that professors at the regent universities do on a day-to-day basis? Well,
I think part of the problem is one, I think he could have used better verbiage, because he put uninformed in there. I think if he'd have said, listen, why don't we get him together with some of the people in industry and start working towards a common solution, would have been a lot better than, here's a letter from my buddy, and, how are you going to fix this? That's kind of that's how it came off, even though he may not have meant that.
It's true, and I think that Monty would have been Mr. Shaw would have been a lot better served doing exactly what he said, going to the professor directly. Or at least engaging with the media directly himself, rather than bringing in a regent. I mean, that really looks bad. It really does.
Well, I think. I disagree. Regents are there to be able to direct the schools and make sure there's no wrongdoing, or if they're staying on track and not getting off track. So I believe that this particular thing is within his purview, Rastetter's purview. The problem is, I think he could have phrased it differently. And two, from my perspective, he's in a spot. Do you go to the dean of his college, the president of the college, or do you go to the professor himself? Regardless of what you do, it can be viewed as intimidation.
Right.
And that's the risk you run. I think that
and wasn't that important of a problem? Was Professor Schnorr's lecture that big of a threat to the ethanol industry in Iowa that a regent had to get involved? Probably not.
Well, maybe or maybe not. But the bottom line is he stated, in my opinion, Professor Schnorr stated two different things that, even though were true, were not causally related. And I believe that's a reason for the regents to go, well, hold on, you need to have some academic honesty, right? And I believe that's within the regent's purview. I just think Rastetter could have done it a different way. Now Bruce is a lot like me. He's a very direct talker, and sometimes he ruffles feathers. So I get it, and you understand that because you're a direct talker too.
That's true. That's true. Well, speaking of direct talk, I think that the base of the conservative religious base of the Republican Party has gotten some direct talk from a lot of the leaders that they've been sort of backing up. And so we're going to get into a little bit here, but maybe after the break, we're really going to dig into this. I think that it's a cataclysmic shift on the right that over 100 mainstream Republican, and we're talking about Clint Eastwood here, for crying out loud. Now, Clint Eastwood has never been a guy that came out sort of hardcore against gay marriage or for traditional marriage, however you want to phrase it. He's never been on the record as far as that's concerned. And so a lot of people could say, well, he's kind of the more of a libertarian kind of guy. He's out in Hollywood, so he's got a little bit different viewpoint. Maybe he's just worried about his money. But this is the guy that the Republican National Committee picked to introduce Mitt Romney, so to speak, at the convention where he railed at an empty chair for about 15 minutes. This was the guy that was sort of trying to distill the message of the Republican opposition at the convention. And so for him to sign on to something that their party has been so vehement against, especially in this state where we lost 3 Supreme Court justices because of it, I think says a lot. So after the break, we're going to get into that. We'll close the show out, and we'll invite you to listen next week. We listen to Doc and Lefty, webcast1live.com.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Drink, dance, party. Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittiesusa.com. Kitty's, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
This is Lefty with Doc and Lefty here every Tuesday night from 6 to 7 in the PM on Des Moines' best internet radio station, webcast1live.com. You know,
and on their flagship program.
Yes. I don't know if that's necessarily true. You know, I do. There are a lot of great programs on Webcast One. You got Max World, you got the Fallon Forum, Bradshaw, a lot of different places to listen to, a lot of different perspectives, which is great. You don't see that a lot on commercial radio anymore. You hear on a lot of talk radio. There's not a lot of progressive or liberal voices in talk radio now. You got a lot of stuff on the right. Now we're not sort of billing ourselves as an alternative to that, but I do think that the internet radio format, I think, is an alternative to some of the more commercial ways that radio has been delivered. And this space, Webcast One, has really provided us with a home to kind of air out our dirty laundry and get us off the street and out of each other's driveways. So
that's right.
And so we really appreciate Webcast One for that and for the sponsor. I will say I listen to Ed Fallon's show every single day, and I don't remember any Miss Kitty's ad. Maybe the next time I tune in, I'll see one, but that could say something about our hard party and rock star lifestyle. I don't know.
Yes, that's absolutely right. That's right.
So we were talking a little bit about this whole Republican exodus away from denying equality and civil rights to our LGBT brothers and sisters, maybe not in that order, to support the amicus brief for Ted Olson and his legal partners in this challenge to Proposition 8 in California before the Supreme Court. And I don't know, for a party that has been so, and I don't want to say rabid about it, because really they haven't been, except for the campaign against the justices back in 2011. That's really where where that got ratcheted up. That was really an issue. But nationally, I don't think the Republican Party, at least, hasn't been super duper rabid on this. But a lot of their base has been. And so to see this shift away, I don't think that you would have seen this 5 years ago.
Well, I've seen it coming for quite a while. You keep in mind that it was Terry Branstad during his first administration that signed the Defense of Marriage Act. You have to keep that in mind. And that's how long this issue has been around, and it's been dividing Republicans since then. I remember there's a very prominent Republican donor who is gay, and he tries to stay out of the fight. There's a person and I can't remember for the life of me what his name is, but he said, "Well, I'm going to start a group, Republicans for Gay Marriage." The schism within the Republican Party isn't necessarily the Christian conservatives against everybody else. There's almost a line at people my age, which is 46. There's a line right here in my demographic that below me nobody cares one way or another about gay marriage. They really, if you want to be married, be married. It's not my business. And they have a tendency to understand more that it really isn't a choice. It's much more of a drive. And people older than me really view it as a choice, and that they want to be able to preserve something that they hold sacred. And you can talk about the history of marriage all you want, but that's basically the two ways it's split. So you'll have people that are older, Terry Branstad, Drew Ivers, Daryl Carney, that cadre of the old guard, versus the new guard of A.J. Spiker, the Libertarians, and the young Turks of Republicanism.
Well, and I can't say that I really have a bone to pick with that analysis, because I've got some really religious family members in my immediate family who, while they are not necessarily they don't necessarily support, if you can say that you can support or not support homosexuality. I don't really understand that, but they do think that it's a sinful behavior or lifestyle or whatever, but they come down on we don't care about them getting married, because if they wanted to get married in our church, we probably wouldn't let them. If they find another church to get married in, more power to them. We'll pray for that church, which is a little bit, I think, for a lot of folks in the LGBT community, is kind of insulting. However, it makes that at least makes more sense, given the view of most religious people that they don't want government anywhere near their worship space. And I think that if you were to have a constitutional amendment or have some sort of legislation like we've had for years and years that says that you can't get married if you are unless you're a man and a woman, I think that really does intrude on a particular church's religious freedom.
Well, but at the same time, it already intrudes now. You can't get married in a Catholic church, I know, at least I know for a fact, without having a marriage license from the state. And I believe that's true for every church. So it boils back down to, you need permission from the secular community in order to have a religious marriage. And I think that's where the line gets blurred a lot of times among the older folk, is that they think it's a religious thing from beginning to end because that's what they experienced. When in fact, there's many different ways you can be married and not within the church.
And that's true. Iowa is one of the few states in this country that still recognizes common law marriage. There are a lot of misconceptions about common law marriage, and we're running out of time, so I'm not going to get into that right here. But suffice to say that it does, and people that are common law married don't typically have a religious ceremony, but they can hold themselves out as married and be considered married by the state and never have signed a marriage license. So it's not a necessary condition, but it is a sufficient one.
Well, and the other thing really does boil down to part of that decision that got the chief justices in trouble. And I believe that my brother Joe had come in on our show one time.
Yep.
And, my brother Joe is a staunch Christian conservative. And he thought that they made the right decision, because at least in part, the part of the decision that I read, it really did boil down to property rights. How do you can't deny property rights, the property rights that you get with marriage. You can't deny that to other people that want that same thing.
Well, and that's true. And there's also an equal protection argument. Now, I know that a lot of folks have a problem, and a lot of folks that you wouldn't think have a problem with this, but that have a problem with the equal protection argument that's made, because they don't want to see LGBT folks as a distinct class deserving of protection for whatever reason. In the same way that race, ethnicity, cultural backgrounds, and even gender has been, although gender doesn't get as much protection, and at least at the federal level, they don't want to see that. But you can't deny that it's a discrete group of people, right? Meaning that it's a unique subset of the American population that has experienced discrimination in the past. There's no denying that has and that deserves at least to be considered on the same basis as everybody else, because that's just kind of how we run our government. And when it comes right down to it, I think that you're seeing, and because of the generational shift in the Republican Party, I think you're seeing this. I think you're seeing a lot of people kind of stand up and say, you know what, we're going to let people be who they are. We're going to let people kind of do what they're going to do as long as it doesn't infringe. And there is no, and I'm going to take a lot of flack from conservatives about this. I know this last statement I'm going to make, there's no actual infringing on the right to get married if you let homosexuals do it. There just isn't. It doesn't exist. If you're not if you don't believe in homosexual marriage, then don't get married to someone of the same sex as you. That's all there is to it. But don't deny that same right that you enjoy to other folks.
I want to let Lefty have the last word on the gay marriage debate. I want to go back just for a little bit, just in the couple of minutes we have left. A couple of things I want to say about AJ Spiker. He's done a couple of things that's really irritated me and put me off from him. But there's two things here recently that he's done that's given me a great deal of respect for him. One, he put on the Celebrate Life event. That takes a lot of guts. That takes a lot of guts to go, here is what we believe, and we're officially going to sponsor this. All right? And that was a pro-life event sponsored by the Republican Party of Iowa. The second thing that he's done that's taken a lot of guts is, even though I might not agree with his stances, he said, we're going to do things differently. And I know that you're the governor, but we're going to make you become the conservative that you ran as. That's essentially what's happening with the Republican Party of Iowa. Hey, you're going to raise taxes? We don't want you to raise taxes. We don't want more taxes. We don't want a higher gas hike. That's what he's doing. So from my perspective, at least he is sticking with his morals and his ideas and not selling out to the highest bidder, which appears to be happening quite a bit in both parties lately.
Well, we'll see if that pays off in electoral dividends. I think the jury's still out on that.
Absolutely.
But anyway, thanks for tuning in. We want to thank Webcast One Live. We want to thank our producer, Ryan, for doing such a great job taking care of us. Go and hang out at Miss Kitty's and check out all of our sponsors because they're great. And they provide great services to the community. And I know that a lot of people are going to find that last statement a little bit funny, but there it is. So thanks a lot for, on behalf of Doc, this is Lefty, Doc and Lefty, Webcast One Live. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.